But James Seymour
definitely getting mixed up. What was she in then?
She was in everything in my head. It was brilliant. I was having a tour of her back garden many times.
That's the cheapest perfume in the world.
I'll tell my wife that. Yeah.
Once I did make the mistake of getting my other half a kitchen mixer for Valentine's, which was not a great move at all, as she let me know.
As if your mate had said that they kissed a girl. What, on the cheek? On the lips? It was such a focus and obsession when you were 12 to see what sort of kiss you'd done with each other.
To be honest, James, even when you're in your 50s.
Did you say that to the wife? Give it a Frenchie. What the hell are you talking about?
It's time to adjust those shoulder pads, backcomb what's left of your hair, and jump into the DeLorean for a look back at what's possibly the best decade anyone could ever have grown up in.
Shall we play a game?
This is Bring Back the 80s with your hosts James Alderson and me, Andy Jackson.
Welcome to a brand new season and a brand new edition of the Bring Back the 80s podcast.
It's series 2, it's mental.
How on earth have we managed to get this far in such a short amount of time?
It's, I don't know. It's an accident.
Can we just say thank you, by the way, to everybody who's watched and shared and liked. A 250,000 people have now seen us.
It's silly. Well, I think it's probably 100,000 and I've watched the remaining ones 150,000 times. But yes, 250,000 views on the old YouTubes. And thank you ever so much. It's very exciting.
Just for our little thing that we do here. Just in case you are a brand new viewer / listener to this podcast, we love the 80s. We want to bring it back, and it's all the best things from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just enjoy the nostalgia and a little trip down memory lane with us. Different topics and different subjects every time.
Little mystery sound for you as well. We do one of these every single episode. It's a sound for you to identify if you can identify it. Wonderful prize. We'll bring back the 80s t-shirts. Woo. Or you can go to any one of James's comedy gigs across the south. We will fly you in first class comfort from any country in the world.
No, we won't. We definitely won't.
You get there under your own steam, but when you get there, you can have a choice of tickets.
First class mail. We can put them in an envelope for Royal Mail. I mean, mind you, the prices are very similar these days.
Oh my God. I went in to buy a book of stamps because very, very occasionally you have to post something.
Yeah.
Like with, if you're dealing with the bureaucracy that is, like the post office or something from stuck back in there. And it's like silly money for a book of stamps.
Well, that's why we're going to talk about Valentine's and love and stuff today. But that's why I won't be getting many Valentine's cards this year. It's the price of a stamp. The ladies want to send it, but it's costly. So I understand. If you're listening now, I get it. Don't worry. Just text me.
Because you send hundreds of them out every year, James.
To myself.
You would think there'd be a reciprocal one every now and then. But let us kick off with our mystery sound. We do this every episode. As we say, there's a Bring Back the 80s t-shirt to be won. Tickets to one of James' comedy gigs if you don't fancy that, but you have to get there under your own steam. Cast you back to the early 80s when this happened.
It's the mystery sound of the 80s. It's the mystery sound of the 80s.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be able to say to you, welcome to...
Welcome to what, James?
James. Welcome to... my wife would say, you're welcome to James. Yeah, wow. That brings back some memories. Even the it was almost Krypton Factor-esque. It wasn't Krypton Factor, but that sort of bass ding, 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 ding in the background.
Very orchestral. I think what it was, they spent a lot of money in it. Thought this was a brand new season and a brand new episode. Thought we make the first one easy, but I could be proven wrong. If you know what it is, though, let us know on any of the social channels, the TikToks, the YouTubes, all of them, really. Yeah. Let us know, and we'll announce the winner next time round.
Yeah, well, that brings back some memories. Yeah, we'll talk about that next time, but we don't want to give it away too much.
Not just yet.
That was great. I love that.
But this week, we're coming up to Valentine's. In fact, I think this podcast comes out the day before Valentine's, so if you're watching or listening the next day, happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's, Mum. That's a weird thing, isn't it? Back a few years ago, they started all that bollocks with cats and dogs, from the Happy Valentine's from the cat. And I went into where I grew up, and I just thought it was a dodgy thing from where I grew up, where it was like, Happy Valentine's Day, Mum. Happy Valentine's Day to my wonderful son. I'm like, what's going on?
No, you don't want a Valentine's. Nobody wants a Valentine's from there. You never want a Valentine's from any relative.
No. And I mean, back in the day, your mum, if she was sorry for you, would send you one. But she wouldn't put love mum at the bottom.
No,
she might put a question mark.
I've never understood the whole thing of them being, anonymous as well, because you should know who it is.
I remember back at uni, I got there were two girls that I thought that fancied me, and they both sent me a Valentine card. But back then, there was a postmark that was very clear. These days, it's some sort of random computer smudge or a post or a barcode or something. You don't know where it is, and that identified exactly who it was. So it was like, oh, good, great. They didn't think it would, of course. But yeah, or you'd go and personally put it through the letterbox, or leave it in their locker, or get someone to put it in their school bag.
I was going to say there was a whole sort of like random school thing now where you would have to slip them a little note or something, because these days now that would be probably seen as harassment, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would be, yeah. Attempted theft or something. I don't know what it would be, but it would
be discouraged.
Yeah, I mean, I remember various mates of mine leaving them for school teachers and things that they fancied. So like, if you did that now, you'd be dragged into school by your neck to go and see the headmaster or something and try and actually say harassment to the teachers. Very awkward, and they'd probably go to prison.
Oh, was there a little gift thing going on as well, where you could take like gifts in, or was that not a?
I think that was your school.
Was it my school?
Your old boys' school that you went to. No, it was always tricky because I went to an all boys school as well, but there was a sort of a parallel all girls school down the road, and we would always have some sort of school disco around that sort of time. It was always wonderful.
The twain would only ever meet once a year, wouldn't they?
Yes, and it would explode figuratively and actually. Yes, it was, and it was always one of those, you'd wait till Star Trekking or whatever had finished, and then there'd be Krista Berg would start playing, and all the boys would sort of rush off to their favourites and ask them to dance, and you'd do a slow dance, and you might put a hand in the bra or something and be very excited, but when you were 11 it didn't really matter, and very exciting. And there'd be roses, plastic. I've got this actually for you.
I did notice that. Thank you very much indeed, right, James,
because this started in the 80s or 70s 80s. Chocolate roses, not like the roses you get at Christmas, but a rose,
a chocolate rose,
and it's actually chocolate. You can open it. It's not an 80s one.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've never eaten one. Because they never really appealed, because it was always like, I'm going
to break the box. Are you sure I'm allowed to? Because I know that you're very, very protective.
I am.
There was once I started to look at something and James nearly had a heart attack because it's worth millions of pounds, Andy. So I'm just doing the typical thing.
Your nonchalance disappoints.
I'm just getting straight in.
You'd have to have a strong girl to give that to, wouldn't you? Test her hand strength.
This is quite classy though, isn't it?
Well,
apart
I don't know.
What's that all about?
I think it's all flopped a bit. But these came about, and I don't know. I mean, the roses, obviously. Let's have a see what the chocolate tastes like. For goodness sake, you're putting it back.
Is it a solid? Is it like I wonder if it's a solid thing, or if it's like a disappointed?
It'll be a hollow
Easter egg.
It'll hollow sort of walnut whip-esque sort of structure in that. It's
it looks okay.
Does it?
Looks good.
It looks a bit like a walnut whip.
No, it's actually the shape of a rose inside, which is
that's not bad. You can have that. You can have it. I'm not bothered.
I'm going to try.
Yeah, thanks. And but yeah, obviously roses are ridiculously priced in Valentine's. Always have been. It's not a new thing, is it? It's you go in to buy a rose and it's a tenner or something, isn't it?
It's lovely, thank you, James.
You're welcome. Happy Valentine's. Yeah, thank you. Love you. But then they brought out these things where you could buy a single. I mean, I don't know why. Single rose that's chocolate. I don't know. But it saved you buying roses and chocolates, I suppose. You combine the two. Brilliant. Money saving. That's probably what it was. But all these sorts of things were so popular in the 80s. You buy the little teddies, Garfield with a heart on it, or something. You stick it on the windscreen, or you'd hang it off your bed knob. So, but yes, it was such a massive thing. Maybe because of Athena and places like this.
They were the big card shop and poster shops, weren't they? Yeah.
And hearts and love and cuddly toys and cuddly cushions and red things. Just always such a big thing in the 80s, I remember. Have any big memories from the?
Well, at the time as well, from the 80s. Obviously, you were still sort of at school. I was actually thinking about this on the way in. I was already into my first marriage and having kids.
Oh, it was all over
in the 1980s. But there was the more sort of grown up thing. Was when you get your other half. Once I did make the mistake of getting my other half a kitchen mixer for Valentine's, which was not a great. Not a great move at all, as she let me know.
You're such an old romantic.
But
back in that kitchen.
I like to think that I might have learned, but I know in my heart of hearts I have not learned. No, but we were all over the TV. I mean, I should have realised, because from these were the things that we should have been getting our prospective Valentines / wives at the time.
/ wives. Okay.
Jane Seymour in Le Jardin de Max Factor.
Le Jardin.
They say romance is back in style. I say it never went out.
Le Jardin.
Le Jardin says it too. It says it subtly. It says it softly. Just like me.
Le Jardin de Max Factor. The incurably romantic fragrance.
They all had the same voiceover guy as well, didn't they? Doing that very deep, dark, chocolatey sort of voiceover.
The smooth, soft lens where Jane Seymour showed you her back garden.
Was she a railway children person? Am I getting mixed up?
You're definitely getting mixed up.
What was she in then?
She was in everything in my head. It was brilliant. I was having a tour of her back garden many times. It was. I mean, what the hell? The soft lens in that. The guys would just think about that advert. What was the product for? I can't even remember. Something about
those
garden.
They were the things that it was aimed at us. Obviously now you realise you get your wife or your girlfriend perfume.
Of course
or
you
a
do.
rose or chocolate.
Of course.
Not a bloody kitchen mixer.
Idiot. Is that what she said when she got it?
It was it's slightly more stronger words.
Is it? How did that marriage go?
Not particularly well, James, to be quite honest. But then, to be fair, none of them did in the end anyway.
Oh dear. Why? The ironing board was lovely that you bought her.
Perfect. But yes, so we're slightly. I think we worked out. It's probably slightly older than you.
You are.
So I was on. I was in. I was having kids and getting married and doing that kind of stuff.
I was giving it a good bloody
go.
go.
You were still doing your very best to do that. But it's like maybe I missed out on some of the school disco stuff.
You probably went to some, but not in the decade that we're trying to focus on. And there was for me, I mean, probably still for you though, I remember the discos coming around, as you say, a couple of times a year, and there was always that sort of expectation and excitement. And you never knew, who was going to send you the Valentine card or give you a little teddy or something. It was great. I remember it. In fact, if you open up, why don't you open up your my lunchbox surprise and have a little look in there? We've got a little jingle for it.
We've got a little jingle, but not just yet, James.
Not just yet.
I'll tell you what.
Should we do it in a minute?
We'll do it in a minute, James.
I tell you what. Let's plan this and produce it.
See that list on the wall there.
Oh.
So we got. Let me do.
Let me do another advert.
Let me do. So you've gone home.
We've had a break between seasons.
You've gone home.
Have I?
You've given the wife the kitchen appliance. And all you have to do now is learn how to use the brand new kitchen appliance that she has received. And it goes there. They actually had a magazine come out to teach you how to use it.
Oh.
I use mine to heat up pizza. I heat up tomato pizzas. I heat up those frozen pizzas.
If you're using your microwave for the same old thing, take a look at Microwave Know-How. Each week, step-by-step pictures give you the know-how to get more from your microwave. In week 1, the basic techniques: shielding, turning, covering, how to cook perfect vegetables and give them that finishing touch, and special recipes like chocolate ice cream cake and wine-poached haddock. Get the know-how and soon you'll be
jamming, roasting, pasta making, lemon pudding, baking, caking.
All it takes is know-how from Microwave Know-How.
So that was one of those part works that used to, the first one used to be, 99p or whatever. The second one was free.
Yeah.
Then they went up to a tenner.
Yes.
First of all, I love the way you pronounce vegetables.
Vegetables. Like it's a new thing.
But,
Well, it was.
Poached fish in the microwave in wine. Very, very fancy.
Yeah.
But nobody ever did any of that stuff.
Well,
it was always nobody ate vegetables. But so there was your you give your wife, your girlfriend the brand new microwave of their dreams for Valentine's or whatever.
Yeah.
And they can collect the part work to
I
carry on
remember
with
those collect things, and you'd get a binder to put them all in. And I remember there was one where you could build an R2D2, and the first one was like £1.49. Second one, like you say, is always free, and third one onwards was like $7.99.
Yeah.
And it was worked out it was going to be about $2,500 to build R2D2, and you ended up with a foot, and that was it. You never had the rest of it because it was like, I'm not bloody playing that, son.
I wonder if anybody did ever complete. Did anybody ever complete one of those part works?
Messages.
They were. Yeah, let us know if you ever did one. Whether it was the art, maybe you have that elusive R2D2.
Yeah.
But did you ever collect a full set of any of the part works at all? And they would come up with all, there'd be a weekly step-by-step guide to origami or something completely random that they would come up with, or
crochet a full rug or something.
Woodworking, with a free drill or something in the first episode, the first edition.
Yeah.
And then what the hell would you do after that?
You got a magazine of some balsa wood for the next remaining parts. Yeah. I mean, it was bad enough to complete a sticker album, and they cost a bloody fortune if you didn't have any friends, because you couldn't go any gets swaps or got along the way. I think I remember the Mexico 86 was one of the first sticker albums that I completed, but after that it was always a struggle. I've still got a few of them now, but there's a few gaps in it. Always the elusive number 96 on page 14 that no one ever had, the shinies and all those sorts of ones. But yeah, those magazines, my mum always was very generous and would get me the binders and start putting it in, but then you just lose bloody faith when you think, I'm never going to finish this 8-foot tall Millennium Falcon. Where are we going to put it?
I would just be so fascinated to know if anybody ever finished that. And wasn't there a thing as well where sometimes the part work company would go out of business before, they didn't sell enough of the early ones, so that's something we're not doing. So that would leave you, if you weren't ready to finish, that would leave you with literally an unfinishable item.
If you were a millionaire, you couldn't complete it.
I'm sure there must be, but there must be, in these days, there must be a claim to be had for distress for not being able to finish that R2D2.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Talking of distress, I thought I'd bring in, of course, being the love Valentine's episode, the ultimate love story, bit of a memento, and that is a lovely saucer to commemorate the marriage of His Royal Highness Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer. It's not for you, but it's...
You're not even letting me touch it, are you, James, on this one?
You'll probably frisbee it across. Is it meant to smash on the wall? But yes, so I always get these confused looks because I always say, have you got anything 80s on a car boot table? And they always point to these. And I go, oh, God, that's great. My wife says, you've got so much of this Charles and Diana stuff, but they epitomised... It was the love story of 1979, 1980, really, when this all started.
Whatever love is.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Charles said.
Yeah, exactly. He knew what love was with Camilla. But yeah, it was just, it was, the press made such a huge thing of it. And she was such a demure, sort of coy character that they loved to just obsess over her and his sort of bachelor ways and his top down. She never did that. Top down MG or whatever it was, he spun around in, didn't he? Like a stud. And she was always fluttering her eyelids and being all
demure.
Yes.
Demure was the word that was invented for.
So you can have a look at it.
Can
hold it with both hands.
Really careful.
It's worth at least 40p. That. But yes, it's that was I think that was the thing, that the haircut, wasn't it? It was like the equivalent of Jennifer Aniston's haircut in the 90s.
Everybody wanted a Lady Di, didn't they? Yeah. Everybody wanted a Lady Di. Nobody wanted a Prince Charles, though, did they?
What? No one wanted a Prince Charles. There we go. Mug ears. Yes. The easiest impression to ever do, though, and just do your hands like this and your ears out and go, and that was...
That's very good, James. You should do that professionally.
Thank you. I should really give up the comedy.
I'm going to give you this back because I know you said it might be worth 49p, but it's probably
we'll put it up there.
Probably one of a kind, isn't it? They probably only made 87 million.
Well, it made 87 million, and everyone threw them out. Apart from this weirdo that I bought it off in a car boot sale. Oh dear! But yeah, so lovely. I love that. When I was, I don't know, I was about 7, 8 when that wedding happened, and I was in love with. I was actually in love with my babysitter back then, and we went to the Isle of Wight on a camping trip, and she came along. She was about 16, 17, and our parents were watching the royal wedding somehow at the campsite. And I was in the tent. Probably
on a TV, I would imagine.
Probably a bit of probably a bit of Flickerbook back then. But it was, but I was in the tent, and my babysitter was getting a bit hot, so she took her jumper off and accidentally lifted her vest underneath. And age 7, everything just bounced into my face. That's my love affair of the 80s. I remember Michelle. Hi, Michelle, if you're watching. She won't be. She's probably 70 now. No, it can't be. Anyway, that was my memory of the royal wedding.
It was on every. You could not avoid the royal wedding though, because it was on every single channel carried it. There was nothing else on the TV, and I think at the time it was the most ever watched thing around the world, wasn't it? When the rest of the world was as obsessed as we were with Charles and Di.
I thought you would say obsessed with your babysitter, but no, obsessed with yes, yeah, and it seemed to be in the newspapers all the time. I mean, it was around there was quite an active news reels, with everything kicking off all over the world. But the royal wedding seemed to be, and Diana particularly, were on the news all the time and in the newspapers all the time. Poor woman. I mean, she was absolutely harassed, wasn't she? Well, yes. Of course she was, till the end. But it's great. It's just a brilliant way to start the 80s and epitomises our episode today.
So if you're having Valentine's Day, hopefully your Valentine's Day will go every bit as well as Prince Charles and Lady Diana. I wonder. No, it might be. No.
It goes a little bit better. It goes a little bit better.
Anyway, James, I think it's time for us to move on with a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Here we go.
James's special lunchbox.
Oh, it's a lunchbox surprise, is it? What now? That's weird. Yeah. Would you like to have a little look inside?
What are the chances, James? So what have we got in here?
Well,
then?
It's all very light, and it's
quite light, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just something to sum up, I think, what the 80s love and romance.
I know exactly what's going on.
I know.
That is perfumes. That is, James.
I know. Well, what? I mean, it's the last Rolo. There's nothing in the envelope. It was just to sum up. The sort of thing that you'd get is Swalk. And people would write all these codes and different things. Girls would put perfume on their envelopes.
That is the cheapest perfume in the world.
I'll tell my wife that. But there's the last. That was the Rolo advert.
Rolo,
Do you love anyone enough to give them your last Rolo? And it is a last Rolo, and you can have it.
I'm going to have it, James. I'm tiny. Did they used to be this small? I seem to remember them.
They were always a bit bigger than that.
Yeah,
and if you eat it, it doesn't have that crack as you bite through the chocolate anymore. It just sort of goes. It's not the same, but we could say this about every chocolate bar, couldn't we? Every crisp.
It's probably vegan.
Yeah, and it tastes. Well, it's got no artificial sweeteners in. That's the problem. But it tastes similar. It does taste very similar. But that was the ultimate. They even did them in the 80s as a gift. You could get the last Rolo, and those envelopes. You'd get one and you'd smell it and they'd have some code on it and you think, what does that mean? Hope it means something great. And no, just a loving kiss. Brilliant. And padded envelopes, cushioned Valentine envelopes. Do you remember them?
The cards as well, like they would like a squishy thing. Oh yeah, they really fancy ones.
Yeah, great. And you'd open them and some sort of confetti or hearts would fall out. And I remember all of the different sort of smells. Valentine seemed to be smelly. It seemed to be a nice smells. I don't mean like Lynx Africa. I mean like a proper
like that lovely perfume,
opium or whatever that lovely perfume is, Black Lace or something. It was always some Avon smell. But magical time.
I thought I would just do a little twist, and James, I know you weren't expecting this.
Oh,
but
I'm married already.
Here we go. Now, I don't know whether you'll remember these or not, but Horlicks have brought these back.
Yeah.
They were still a thing in the 1980s.
Okay.
Have you ever seen them before?
Original Horlicks tablets.
Now, this is, like the Horlicks drink.
Yeah.
This is that drink in a tablet form.
How horrible.
Please, James, do try one. As it's Valentine's. Now, I remember these, and I've fact-checked this.
Yeah.
The reason why they've brought these back out is because Horlicks is celebrating their 150th anniversary.
Of course they are.
But I remember having these. My grandparents would have these.
Wow, like a Werther's.
Like a Werther's kind of thing. And I remember having these on holiday.
Excuse me, but Jesus Christ!
Look at how appealing they are.
It looks like a detergent dishwasher tablet.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And now I've got to eat it.
You've got to eat it, James. I'd be interested to know.
Might be the end of the episode.
It could be. I don't know. They were chewy at the time, I seem to remember. But this is to celebrate Horlicks' 150th birthday.
It's just definitely for human consumption.
These were definitely a thing in the 1980s.
Shit, mate.
I'd love to know, because you don't remember these, obviously.
No.
I would love to know if anybody else remembers these. According to the website, they were still going strong right through the 80s before they phased them out.
Christ.
But they are an interesting kind of flavour, consistency, deliciously malty, irresistibly chewy, is the way that they are described here, James.
Horrible. I feel
You're seriously not impressed with that, are you? See, you noticed that.
Is there a number you can phone on the back of that?
There probably is. Shall I have a look and see what the...
I honestly feel like you've given me a dog biscuit.
How strange this... I'm just looking to see what the...
That is not pleasant.
What's in there? Well, there's emulsifier in there and whey
what,
powder and...
What it makes me think of is... If someone had opened a bag of Maltesers from 1986 and gone, have one of them, I reckon that's what that would be like.
Malty, yeah.
Oh, it's malty.
Yeah.
But it's not nice.
So you're saying you don't like my Valentine's gift?
No, useless. And you cannot feel my boobs.
That's the last one you're ever getting from me, James. Last one.
Let's stick with my lunchbox surprise in future.
So anyway, we're not having those for you then.
Oh,
so we've worked out that
still got it stuck in my teeth.
It's going to be, James, from memory, that's going to be there at 11 o'clock tonight without any shadow of a doubt.
Oh my God. So
anyway, so you were at the school disco trying to cop a little feel if you possibly could.
Yeah.
I was obviously married, having kids, doing that.
Not being allowed to
not after giving away the food mixer. No, not at all. But just a reminder of the kind of things that we were eating as well. This would be something that it's beginning of convenience foods coming in.
Okay.
And with this a little bit of casual 1980s racism, which was fine at the time.
Of course.
But is now not a thing. So of its time,
yes.
we'll say, of its time.
Home Pride introduced new classic Chinese sauces.
Home Pride man fled. Please allow me.
Yes, but...
Observe, honourable viewers, delicious ingredients like pineapple, ginger, fine sherry, spices, hoisin, and soy sauces.
Ooh, soy sauce.
Prepared to traditional Chinese recipe to help you make inspired Chinese dishes. Okay, Fred?
No, I'm Bert.
Oh, so sorry. All Home Pride men look same to me. Ha ha.
Home Pride classic Chinese. They're a source of inspiration.
Now, that was funny at the time.
Well, I, to be absolutely honest, I think that the line that the Chinese guy
Turned
said
it round.
is clever, and that's fine. I quite like that because it's playing them at their own game. But and I'd like to think the person doing the voiceover was Chinese.
I wouldn't imagine.
No,
you just don't know. But it was as we say, this is bringing. But we always say there are good bits of the 80s, bad bits of the 80s.
Yeah.
That is not a bit of the 80s that I would particularly. But just to remind you of what we grew up with, and that was fancy stuff. We'd never heard of soy sauce before.
No.
With ginger, you would never, you might get perhaps, ginger or olive oil from the chemist
or gingerbread.
Something like that. Or gingerbread, you'd have a little gingerbread man or something. But you would never put ginger.
No.
I remember my nan would never buy onions because
foreign muck.
The flavour was too strong. You would not buy onions.
Yeah. I know
Don't
what you
even
mean.
mention garlic.
No. Garlic.
Yeah.
I think, it was actually a bit like that. Salt and pepper is a seasoning limit.
Always white pepper as well.
Yes.
Never none of this grind your own stuff. It was like you just tip it out.
Bit of effort at the table, pointless.
White. You'd go to a B&B.
Yeah.
And that would be the standard thing. There would be
and I had relatives who would put a pile of salt on the side of their dish. They wouldn't salt the food. They would put the salt on a pile on the edge of the plate.
Dip
into the salt. And I did the same as a kid because they did it. My mum never used salt, so I just saw my grandparents and great-grandparents putting the pile of salt on the side and dipping into it, and that's what I did for years until I realised that's bloody weird.
It is. You have reminded me though, because my one of my relatives did the same sort of thing, and you would have a little pyramid of salts, little salt pyramid that you would then dip food into.
Absolutely.
What was that all about?
Yeah, very strange. It's almost like a dipping sauce, but it wasn't. You just squash your food onto it, coat it in salt, eat it. It's my in-laws have more salt than food on their plate, and even they don't do a pyramid of salt. It's like a frosting over their food of salt, and you sort of look and think, I can actually see the salt on your food. That's weird, but they love it. But maybe it was a new thing for them when they were kids.
Maybe I think food was so bland, wasn't it, that salt was the only thing you could do. I mean, there was no such thing as like spicy sauce or anything. We would not.
No,
not
true.
Be able to cope with spicy sauce then. You would
true,
never
actually.
have any of these pepper sauces. There was ketchup, and maybe if
brown sauce,
HB sauce.
That's had a bit of kick
and
to
that
it.
just a little bit, but that was as far as we would ever go, isn't it?
Apart from our Chinese friend there who brought it in, ruined it with his foreign muck.
I did like a good Vesta curry as well. That was a good.
Apparently that was a thing. I don't know.
Do you not remember Vesta curries? No, they were still around in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was basically a dehydrated curry, I think, really, that you would add water to. And they always had these weird deep fried noodles. And I've never been to an Indian restaurant where they've given you a plate of deep fried noodles. No. But it used to be a thing in the Vesta curries for some reason.
I remember when I did a gig up in, I think it was Glasgow, I went to the restaurant and met the guy who owned the restaurant who invented chicken tikka masala, because obviously it's not an Indian dish.
Is it not?
No. And
I could have sworn it was traditional.
And I met him and had a photo with him in his restaurant. This is about 6 years ago, and he was very understated, uninterested actually, but he was, a very proud guy, and I just thought I've got to meet this guy, because chicken tikka masala, although it's not the most adventurous meal, it's not a korma.
It's like it's a gateway into
the proper stuff.
Into the proper stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I bet him, and I think that was invented back in the 60s, I think, but still, a lovely bit of nostalgia for me. I love a curry, but not obviously from old Ben. What was he?
Was he Ben?
No.
Well, we've already forgotten, haven't we?
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, anyway,
He was there all
that's,
the
how
same.
that's how good it was. That's how good it was.
What was his name?
So that was your treat meal.
That's annoying now.
Yeah, but it'll come to us.
Oh, okay.
It'll come to us in the middle of the night. But that was
Tune in next time.
That was your treat. Was a fancy food from another country. Was a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first pizza I didn't have till the early 90s. It was all so new, wasn't it? The 80s to get food that wasn't fish and chips or a roast dinner was quite fancy, really. You might have a hedgehog with cheese and pineapple sticking out of it. That was adventurous on a buffet. And maybe a quiche and some vol au vents.
Of course, as young kids, if you wanted to go out on an affordable date, if you're going to call it that, you were limited to the chip shop or whatever. There was no going out for a cheeky Nando's.
No, it was Bernie Inn, wasn't it?
There was that Bernie Inn. But that would have been a fancy sit-down thing with your prawn cocktail and then your steak and,
chips.
Steak and chips with the pepper sauce.
Yeah.
and Black Forest Gatto, obviously, to
of course, or Knickerbocker Glory.
Knickerbocker Glory,
with
yeah.
some sparklers.
But that would have been like a formal. We're dressing up. We're going to go to the Bernie Inn.
Yeah, you wouldn't go in there in jeans.
Definitely not.
You wear chinos or trousers and some shoes, Farah trousers, and your mum would get a proper frock on.
Yeah.
And now you go into whatever. I don't think is there a Bernie Inn? Probably, but Beefeater or somewhere, or Harvester, and everyone just rocks up in flip flops.
You know what? I don't think it matters anymore.
Don't care.
I went into a fancy restaurant the other day in my jeans and hoodie, and nobody bats an eyelid.
Well, I'd be disappointed.
Would you be disappointed?
If we went on a date and you turned up in jeans, I would get up and walk out. I'm like, you're not getting anything from me later, you scruffy bugger. Yeah. So it's I think it's lost a little bit these days, don't you? The Valentine's sort of, I don't think kids do. I mean, I don't want to talk about kids' discos too much in schools, but I don't think they do anything like that. I don't think they would have a school disco around Valentine's.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
To be involved. You imagine they would have to be appropriateness police.
Yeah.
Policing the.
And I think kids are a lot more mature now. You know, when I was 12 or 13, to go to a school disco and wait for a slow dance, that was an exciting thing. But now I think
they were just swiping left and right, and that's they're all there, James.
Yeah,
to be honest,
they want to see.
They know what's going on. There's no mystery.
No,
there's no romance. There's no
finding porn in the bushes. To discover what a lady looks like.
The porn fairy did. Everybody, it always the porn fairy would come and leave a bunch of porn in the bushes.
Yeah,
and you would discover that, and you'd share it around with your mates and whatever. Yeah. And
then you had to feel your way in the dark at a school disco to discover if it was all true. and now kids, I think, and I think I'm presuming too much. I think they do have seen it all and probably shared pictures of themselves and stuff. And so those school discos are just redundant.
It's not going to be a thing, is it?
No. And as you say, they'd have to have people policing everything, stopping them vaping or e-scootering around the disco.
Don't even get started on whose job it was to sneak in the booze.
Well, yeah,
somebody had to sneak in the booze. Yeah,
there's no such thing as, because kids aren't. I don't think. I mean, I used to sneak into clubs and discos and God knows what, where I was meant to be 16 or 18 with some homemade fake ID. I don't think they even need to do that now, do they? They just sort of
order online. I guess you could order it online.
Yeah, you probably get a properly efficient one made perfectly well. But yeah, so I remember all the giggling and the chatting with mates about who kissed who, and what sort of kiss was it though? A French kiss. Do you remember that? Nobody says that anymore, do they?
French kiss.
They French kissed each
Frenchie.
other. What does that mean? Yeah, give him a Frenchie. It was such a weird sort of focus on that, because if your mate had said that they kissed a girl, what on the cheek, on the lips, it was such a focus and obsession when you were 12 to see what sort of kiss you'd done with each other. And
to be honest, James, even when you're in your 50s.
Did you say that to the wife? Give it a Frenchie. What the hell are you talking about? Oh God, yeah. But hopefully we have moved on a little bit as well. So date night as well. A lot of good 80s movies to go to as well. But there's occasionally you get a little spin-off from perhaps a big movie, and it would be turned into a commercial for something completely different. See if you recognise this actor, the movie that it was inspired by, shall we say, as well.
Hi, I just moved in next door. Could I borrow a Diet Pepsi?
Sure. Yes.
Be right with you.
When you go all out for taste, the taste to go out for is Diet Pepsi.
You okay in there?
Here's your Diet Pepsi.
Thanks. I hope it wasn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all.
Diet Pepsi, the choice for a new generation.
1 calorie.
1 calorie.
That's what it said. 1 calorie. That's the last little bit to add in. Oh, Michael J. Fox. That must have cost him a fortune.
Must have done, mustn't it?
That back when they were throwing money at Michael Jackson. Michael J. Fox.
All the Michaels, basically,
Winner.
yeah.
I don't know, probably not. Some other Michael Douglas. Yeah, great. Loved it.
But so that, we were limited for date nights.
Yeah.
To do. So I suppose chip shop, or perhaps go and see a movie.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that was a big deal. Sitting in the back row of a smoky cinema with a girl.
You could always sit on the half where the smoking wasn't allowed, James. So
yeah,
you
and then
could
it
be
wasn't
on the left
smoky.
side. Then it was never smoky on that side.
Smoky on that side, because I think you'll find that smoke was a lot better behaved back then.
Much better.
It knew where it was meant to be. You're right. Actually, going and sharing a Butterkist, rah rah rah, and a box of fruit pastels. Do you remember when they came in boxes?
Yes, yes.
And you both put your fingers into. You both put your fingers in.
This is not an image that anybody wants to see, James.
You both put your fingers in the box to tease out the sugary sweet, and they were stuck together at the bottom, and your fingers would meet in the dark. Anyway, so great. Yeah, no, you're right. Cinema was the only place really for a date. There's no, as you say, no cheeky Nando's, no slipping off to anywhere else. You might possibly pop to the Wimpy beforehand, and then queue up and go to that little glass box where the lady will give you a ticket. So she'd churn out like a rail ticket, and it would come out, and you'd take it to the girl who was then waiting at the, because they don't wait at the cinema.
No, with the torches.
Anymore.
They used to show you to your place with the torch, didn't they?
Now you got to fumble through and go to some sort of reclining huge electronic device that you've got to sit in.
What an improvement is that? You go. The first time I went to one of the fancy cinemas, I just spent the whole time to go.
Oh yeah, that must be bloody brilliant. Everyone around you. Were you moving the seat or just making that noise?
I think I might have joined in a few times, and it was because it was a new place. It was like the leatherettes was squeaking nicely as it was going as well.
But no ice cream ladies.
No ice cream ladies. No. They used to sell, obviously cigarettes for the breaks as well. You could do your smoking if you wanted to do that as well.
And the curtain would come across whilst the projector was still projecting the final advert for Butterkist, and it would project on the screen as the curtain came across and closed after that first cartoon before the proper film started. Always nice to know you had an interval coming where you could go and get your second ice cream.
And you never would have to, we never used to have to be reminded to turn our phones off.
No.
When you go to the cinema now, it's always like, please turn your phone off. Don't check your phone. There was no such thing.
And none of this, wonderful, isn't it? The silence. It's time for stop talking, stop chatting, you dicks. That's what, that one that you do the adverts on the Odeon cinema and View Cinemas, telling people to stop talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, if it were me, it would be, for Christ's sake, it's cost you a tenner, you knobhead.
People
Stop chatting.
I do despair now, and at the risk of sounding very, very grumpy, there was a story, there was somebody who was actually at a play and they had their laptop out while the play was going on.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? But
No.
I suppose people...
Attention, they need more to focus to keep them going.
I do not know. I do not understand.
I remember sitting in cinemas and being silent watching the adverts, not the trailers, the adverts for the products that they'd advertise for you, like the local Taj Indian restaurant advert and all that stuff we spoke about before. And then the trailers, of course, you're quiet, and then the film you're quiet. Now, half the time they're not even quiet during the film, and not a single person throws popcorn around. That's what we used to do in the 80s. We were silent, but we threw popcorn at
popcorn
people
as well. Yeah. Well, there we go. That's our first episode, James, of the brand new season. Thank you so much. Would you like to take these home with you?
No. I mean, I think you should keep them and give them to people you don't love. For our Valentine special, I feel violated.
Really?
After that Malteser-esque crunch, I feel like you give that to people you don't love and don't want to ever have a slow dance with.
If you've been affected by any of the issues that we've been mentioning in this podcast, there will be a helpline number coming up towards the end.
Yes, but you have to subscribe to find it.
Speaking of subscriptions, thank you so much for taking us to over 250,000 views on YouTube now with our little bits and bobs. If you like the podcast, the long form one of about an hour or so that we do every 2 weeks, it would be absolutely amazing amazing if you could share it with just one person.
Yeah.
Because we want to grow and get bigger and bigger. We want to take the show out on the road. We want to do live podcasts.
Yeah.
But we just need to grow a little bit before we need to walk before we can run.
Exactly. And we want to spread the love.
Spread the love.
And the romance.
Spread the love. Also, while on the subject as well, while we're talking about sort of like 80s dates and things like that, if you've got any suggestions of any places that have got an 80s flavour that we could perhaps visit and pay whether it be a restaurant, whether it be maybe one of the old school cinemas that's still going, we would love to know. So if you've got any suggestions of anywhere in the local area, do let us know by the usual channels on the everything you need to know, bringbackthe80spodcast.com. It's all there as well.
Don't suggest visiting my house, because I do that every day, okay? And don't say, oh, I know, there's a good tour show called Bring Back the 80s, you should go to that. No, I'm finishing that. 2 weeks' time. 24th of February is the last ever time I'm doing the Bring Back the 80s show.
So there's no more Bring Back the 80s shows? Never again?
I've written a second show, but can I be asked to finish it? I don't know. We'll see. But it's at Pagham, 24th of February, which is near Chichester. So you can go onto my website, jamesalderton.net, if you want to see it for the last ever possible time.
Not only that, you've got millions of comedy clubs going on across the south as well with Stitches Comedy.
Yeah.
There is bound to be a comedy night somewhere near you. My personal favourite is the one at Salisbury Green.
Yes, that is
that
wonderful.
You do in the village hall there. It's perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
It's always good value. So that's on your website. I shall be doing my little radio show on Wave 105 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evenings, and bright and early Sunday morning.
Are you doing a Valentine special?
I don't think I'm probably the most qualified person to do.
Not if you're giving people food mixes, no.
I think when it comes to romance and my past, I'm not the best, but I'm not.
Game over.
Leave it to the experts.
You're welcome.
Leave it.
I'll
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back next time for another edition of the Bring Back the 80s podcast.
Yeah.
We will say see you next Tuesday.
Happy Valentine's.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition. We'd love it if you could subscribe in your favourite podcast app, and don't forget there's a video version on YouTube too. You can contact us using the links in the show notes and on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time for another edition of Bring Back the 80s.